STP did impress fans and critics alike with their unplugged interpretations. One of the show's highlights was Big Empty, a song that later catapulted the Crow soundtrack to the top of the charts.
Take her home, her dizzy head contemplated.
Still feeling the emotional repercussions of the past year, the band took a well-needed break from each other before finally deciding to reconvene the songwriting process.
Artistically, we needed to do it. The new album was probably the only thing that saved us from breaking up, which is unfortunate that things got to that point, but I think certain things were created out of that tension that probably wouldn't have happened if we all would have been getting along, you know, all peachy and everything.
The second album lies in the Vaseline we are. Sometimes it blows my mind. Keep getting stuck here all the time. Have you lost your sister, girl? All but blown away.
Definitely on an artistic level, it's more experimental because I feel that rather than feeling this pressure to make something as acceptable as Core was, I think we actually felt more freedom to explore different sounds.
Interstate Love Song, the second single from Purple, was huge, spending a record-breaking 15 weeks at the top of the album rock charts. Stone Temple Pilots were now a headlining act, except when they took the opportunity to open for the Rolling Stones.
Like, oh, we're headlining our big tour. And then we went over to do those two shows, and we realized how small our tour really was compared to that one.
In May of 1995, at the height of the band's success, Weiland became part of a rock and roll cliche.
Less than 24 hours after his arrest for possession of cocaine and heroin in Pasadena, California, Stone Temple Pilots singer Scott Weiland phoned up LA radio station KROQ and introduced his friend Courtney Love, who read a note in which Weiland called himself a man who has failed and apologized to his wife, his family, his friends, his bandmates, and his fans for having what he called the disease of drug addiction.
What prompted you to call into K-Rock with an apology? Did you really feel like you had to talk about it?
If I didn't say something first, I felt that a lot of people would be saying things for me or about me. My dream to make music for a living is my lifelong dream, and I've done it. But the things that came along with it, I didn't know. Wasn't prepared for a lot of those things. I have to remind myself to remain humble in the face of music all the time, or else that gift could be taken away, you know.
When we return, we'll take a look at the 1996 tour that STP started but never finished.
Dancing days are here again as the summer evenings grow.
By the end of 1995, Stone Temple Pilots managed to have another hit song with their take of Led Zeppelin's Dancing Days from the Encomium tribute album. And Scott Weiland experimented with a side band, the Magnificent Bastards, who were featured on the soundtrack of Tank Girl. But as far as STP was concerned, the primary issue was putting aside their personal differences and Weiland's ongoing legal battle and getting back together as a music-making unit. After several failed attempts in '95 to begin recording new material, the band finally did follow their instincts and headed to the Santa Ynez Mountains late in the year. They sequestered themselves on a 100-acre ranch that doubled as their home and recording studio. There they wrote, reconnected, and relearned how to be Stone Temple Pilots.
We hadn't played together in a year. I mean, the band had almost broken up. It was like starting over.
It worked out great, you know, and when we all got together, it was really neat because we got to utilize the whole house. You know, everywhere the cables would reach, we utilized, from the bathroom to cedar closets to the front lawn to the living room.
When you said the front lawn, did they actually put you on the front lawn and have you play?
Yeah, we tried about 4 different rooms, and we just, it wasn't sounding right, you know, it sounded too big, and we wanted it to be a little drier and tighter. I wanted to be by the pool because it was a nice sunset, and the cables wouldn't reach out there, so we ended up, yeah, doing it in the front lawn.
Clinic was STP's third straight platinum album, but the group's musical progress was completely overshadowed in 1996 by Scott Weiland's heroin addiction. Here's our remix update.
Stone Temple Pilots frontman Scott Weiland, arrested last year for possession of heroin and cocaine, lost another round in his struggle with drugs this week. The 28-year-old singer had been spared jail time after his bust in Pasadena, California last spring on the condition that he undergo regular drug counseling. When he missed a session on Tuesday, police promptly issued a warrant for his arrest. Friends found him first, however, and immediately put him in a hospital. Weiland's latest flameout couldn't have come at a worse time for the band. With a new album hovering in the middle of the Billboard Top 10, Stone Temple Pilots have mapped out a busy work schedule, starting with 3 free concerts for fans next week in New York City, Chicago, and Los Angeles, and continuing into the summer on tour as an opening act with their reunited idols, Kiss.
We've been unable to fulfill our commitment due to our singer's drug use. It's got nothing to do with exhaustion or dehydration or sore throat, some of the things you typically hear about, and this is very hard. This is, we are deeply ashamed and very sorry for this terrible inconvenience, and we're very sorry.
I had a chance to speak briefly with bassist Robert DeLeo, who told me that when the band assembled to begin rehearsing for next week's shows on Monday of this week, Scott Weiland was nowhere to be found. They couldn't get in touch with him. Additionally, sources close to Weiland's case told MTV that the singer failed to show up for a drug counseling appointment on Tuesday, and as a result of that, he's been ordered to appear in Pasadena court next Friday, May 3rd, the date the band was to have played their Los Angeles show.
Weiland was hauled into court on Monday, a week after missing a date with his drug counselor, and ordered by a judge to enter a 4 to 6 month residential drug rehab program. He was locked up in the hospital unit of the L.A. County Jail for a week, and on Monday he'll check into Impact House, a live-in 12-step center associated with the rehab group Narcotics Anonymous. It's not a lockdown facility, but Weiland was ordered to stay there around the clock until at least July 29th, when the judge will bring him back to court to determine his progress in battling what's clearly a debilitating drug habit.
Stone Temple Pilots frontman Scott Weiland scared the heck out of a lot of people Wednesday night by disappearing from the Pasadena, California drug rehab clinic, where he'd been sent by court order.
I can't go over the wall and get a hamburger down the road and come back. You can go get a hamburger, but you can't come back.
Scott Weiland did. On June 25, 1996, the STP frontman left Impact and walked to a nearby McDonald's, where he spent 6 hours making phone calls to his wife and manager. Despite legal efforts to send him to prison, Weiland was readmitted 2 days later. That same summer, Bob Timmons took Weiland to see the Sex Pistols, whose guitarist Steve Jones is in recovery, so Weiland could see what a safe and sober backstage area looked like. After Weiland completed 90 days at Impact, and more at a halfway house, plans were hatched for STP to return to the road.
What does it mean for you guys to see Scott looking so healthy, to be clean after all this time?
Hasn't been that long.
Working with the STP organization, Timmons was beginning to implement the Aerosmith tour plan. Sober rooms backstage, access to recovering musicians and meetings in every city, vetting the names of crew and security people, a designated babysitter for Weiland, and a code word to alert him that drugs were in the room.
Stone Temple Pilots have finally hit the road with their newly non-fried frontman.
It's a pleasure to see him wake up in the morning and actually have a smile on his face.
I hope now this next time around he just knows what he's got, you know, and doesn't screw it up again.
I don't know what'll happen tomorrow or next week. I could be strung out again. But right now I'm enjoying my life, and every moment I'm on stage with the band, we look at each other and smile, and it's like, I love you guys.